And we are live on playback. It is the MMA Outsiders, a new Thursday edition. Tom Albano filling in for Jack Gold. My name is Zan Bando, as always. Tom, it's been a while since we've done one of these together like this. Can you kind of give a little teaser to the newer playback audience as to why this is so familiar?
Yeah, that's right. So the people on playback may not know, but I was the original co-host alongside Zan for the MMA Outsiders. So this is kind of a reunion tour, if you will.
Yeah, for about a year, a pretty solid year and a half, or maybe a little bit more than that.
Two
But
and
it's
a
good.
half.
Yeah, you're right. Yeah, because we started in 22. I was thinking 23, but you are 100% right. Yeah, we started in August of 2022 with UFC 277, and somehow we're going into UFC 322. So it's been a really long time. Unfortunately, we're not here to talk about UFC 322 today. We're here to talk about UFC Vegas 110. But before we do that, Tom, there's been some updates in regards to the in regards to our simulcasting ventures over on playback. So do you want to inform our playback audience as to what those are? Because this is a pretty recent development.
Yeah, it's a pretty big deal. So, what's up, sports fans? Got some amazing news that makes catching your favorite shows easier than ever. If you're hooked on the dynamic content and great analysis from Playback TV, you can now find us in even more places. That's right. Playback TV programming is now expanding its live reach to the Empty the Bench Network's Kick and Twitch channels. Playback TV is still your home for premier sports content, but now we're broadcasting live on these new platforms to bring the conversation directly to you. We want you to stop missing out on the instant analysis and real-time interaction that only a live show can deliver. Whether it's game day reactions or deep dive interviews, we're broadcasting on Kick and Twitch so you can chat with the hosts and community live. To catch the expanded live schedule, just search for @ETB Network on both Kick and Twitch. That's @ETB Network. Follow us today and never miss a live minute of the great content you expect from Playback TV.
Yes, now you have four different ways to tune into the same show, so it's pretty cool, and it's still simulcasted on YouTube. So how about that? I never thought when I first started doing this whole content creation thing that it would expand from one platform to four or five, which is pretty, which is pretty crazy. So
I could tell the story of Nick Morgeson and I doing shows on Twitch for a very brief time during the COVID pandemic, but that could be a story for another time.
for sure. So I guess let's dive into some things here, Tom. Where would you like to start? Would you like to start with our news element that we're going to be discussing across this half hour, or would you like to get into the card, or I guess in a very underwhelming sense, the card that is UFC Vegas 110? Where do you want to start?
Let's get the news element out of the way because I hate it. I hate it. I hate it. And by the way, I hate it.
Yeah, I figured as much that you would. I'm just going to be straight with you, and I'm sure you'd agree to an extent. There's no way that that's happening at the Sphere. That's number one, and number two. Someone in either camp, I don't know which camp that would be, has to be desperate enough because the first fight underwhelmed 10 years ago. What leads me to believe that the second fight will do any better? And the fight we're referring to, it's rather obvious at this point. But for those who don't know, there's talks and discussions according to several reliable sources, including Mike Coppinger and a couple others, that Manny Pacquiao and Floyd Mayweather have expressed interest in a rematch, and it wouldn't even be an exhibition. They would be calling it "quote unquote" a real fight, which is unbelievable. So,
Well, I can't see it being anything other than an exhibition. Floyd Mayweather has really just fought exhibitions after everything that went down with Conor McGregor back in 2017. I mean, Manny Pacquiao made his return to boxing earlier this year after a was it a 3 or 4 year retirement. Um,
mhm.
Look, it just I hate it. Like you said, the fight happened 10 years ago, and that was after years of negotiations, years of back and forth talk between both sides. And ultimately, the fight was an absolute disappointment. It was a draw. It was the biggest boxing pay per view of all time in a financial sense and a superstar sense, but the fight sucked. And on top of that, isn't the Mike Tyson versus Floyd Mayweather thing still going to be a thing in
It's it's
wintertime?
it's supposed to be. I haven't heard anything otherwise. I don't.
So so this guy Floyd Mayweather is going to do two boxing matches. Let's be clear, they're going to be exhibitions, even though they're promoting them as real within a 2 to 3 month span.
Yes. Yeah. Absolutely.
You get what I'm going at? Like,
Yeah.
really?
Yeah. Like you're really gonna expect that quick of a turnaround, and even the promotion of the fight, like Netflix wants to do it, but I don't even know if Netflix realizes what they're walking into. Do you? Because I don't.
No.
I don't. I don't think. I don't. I don't think so. I understand people could say to us after the fact, like, "Oh, the Mike Tyson Jake Paul fight happened on Netflix." My counter to that would be is that it would be two totally different scenarios. Obviously, as you know, and as you followed it the same way I did, Jake Paul was the one to call out Mike Tyson to begin with. I've seen no inklings in the media that suggest that Floyd Mayweather or Manny Pacquiao was even calling the other out. So I mean, pretty much all this is based on reports from very very good insiders, I might add. But something just isn't adding up. Wouldn't you agree?
Yeah, something doesn't seem right. The timing of it, uh, the fact that it even is going to. I know they have teased previously the idea of doing rematches or the idea of doing an exhibition, but it just seemed a little out of the blue, especially given, like we said, that Mike Tyson and Floyd Mayweather are supposed to have their own exhibition. Which, by the way, you saw who's the promoter of that Tyson Mayweather exhibition, right?
Yeah, it's a company that you're very familiar with.
CSI Sports, who own a website that is known as Fight Sports, which was my very first stop in my MMA media career.
Yeah, and that obviously takes you back quite a ways for sure. So that's a bizarre development. Before we get into anything else, though, and I meant to put this on the rundown. I forgot, but we might as well talk about it anyway.
Mm-hmm.
I'm just curious because you're interested in this sort of thing. Um, I mean, do you think the death of UFC Fight Pass Brazil signals a bad sign that Fight Pass as a whole service could be going away in
Well,
2026? Because I saw that and was very concerned.
I am concerned, but also remember that this is part of all the media negotiations that's going on with the UFC.
Right,
There was a report, I want to say about a month or two ago, that ESPN was still within negotiations with the UFC, and there was a chance that that the ESPN rather was interested in acquiring UFC Fight Pass to basically, I would assume, add everything to the ESPN Plus library.
right, exactly. Ex-
That wouldn't shock me. It honestly wouldn't shock me.
it would shock me too, just because of how many other countries rely on it. You know what I mean? Because
I
I
know.
don't, I don't see how they can cut deals with every single country. So I think Fight Pass is going to stay in select territories. What do you think?
I think it should. Like, I understand ESPN might want to stay in the fight game. I understand ESPN has a relationship with TKO, given they've been the home of the UFC for the last 6 years and now
Mhm.
have acquired the rights to WWE premium live events here in the United States. So I understand it from that perspective, but like you mentioned, all those different countries that rely on Fight Pass and well, UFC.com or the old UFC.tv for UFC pay
Right,
per view content.
I do remember that, and we're old enough to go far back and remember the days when Amazon Prime used to do the extension of UFC pay per views as well. So
And the thing about UFC Fight Pass that's interesting for me and you, I mean, yeah, there's all the documentaries and stuff, but there's also the classic cards. So like you can
mhm.
go back and watch any Pride, any Strike Force, any UFC event. I don't know if that whole library is going to be available at one time to watch on ESPN Plus if that's where it's headed.
or on Paramount.
or on Paramount or on an Amazon. I for some reason I would buy more into the idea of Paramount having more of the UFC library, if not all of it, than let's say an ESPN Plus. Because I think if ESPN really is going to acquire the fight library, I could see them saying, "Who cares about Pride?" and not put any Pride FC events on in the
which would
classic
which would honestly be fairer, no? Because I mean, in ESPN, technically they were essentially just in bed with the UFC. So to the casual ESPN subscriber, it might confuse them if they bring over the entire thing.
I
I don't.
get it, but that's an insult to guys like you and me who have been around the sport for years.
That's true.
So that's my whole take on it. So I think UFC Fight Pass needs to stay.
Okay, especially for regional MMA too, right?
Absolutely. That would be the other thing. That complete, Zed, you completely brought up the point that I completely forgot before we were going to move on. LFA calls UFC Fight Pass home. CFFC calls UFC Fight Pass home. There are
Tough enough calls Fight Pass home.
Right. There are a number of regional promotions. If that goes to, an ESPN, or if that goes to any streaming service for that matter, but especially in ESPN, I mean, what's going to happen to those promotions? And it's become pretty clear, Zan, considering, the state that MMA is in, you need those promotions.
Mm-hmm. You need those promotions in a big way. And speaking of prospects and speaking of potentially needing more fights, we have another UFC event this weekend. We're back at the Apex for the first time in a really long time. It's since early August that the UFC is in an Apex card.
Yeah, and I believe it's actually the last two Apex cards of the year. You've got one this week, one next week, and then after
Actually,
that,
there's one more. It's the Royval fight on December
December
13th.
December 13th Apex.
Mm-hmm.
I remember the original report was it wasn't going to be Apex.
It is.
Oh joy!
So we have three more, including this weekend.
Apex, 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 Apex.
Strap in. All right, so here we go. So it's a 13 fight card. I'll share my screen so you can see the bout order in case you haven't already
Must we?
in case you haven't already nauseated yourself with it.
Must we? Oh my lord, this card. I mean,
It's so bad.
granted, I say that, and the fights could end up delivering, but my god, this look at those three headliners. You want to call those three fights headliners?
No, sir. And I actually thought that WCA and Delia should have been the main event.
Can I be honest with you?
Yeah,
I think you have a very good case that it should be swapped.
I mean, this is no disrespect to Garcia and Onama. They're on very good winning streaks right now, but I don't think anyone's screaming for that fight. Am I crazy to say that?
Right. And in all due respect, I know Ariel Helwani made fun of him at one point when they were talking about the idea of him fighting Francis Ngannou in PFL. But Ante Delia is the former PFL heavyweight champion, for God's sake.
Yeah. I don't know. It's very interesting. I don't know.
I mean, look, this is if there was
go ahead. Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt. Go ahead.
If there was another fight or two ahead of Garcia Onama, I'd be fine with this. But the fact that Garcia and Onama itself is a main event, they're 12 and 13 in the rankings at this point. And if you're going featherweight as a whole, and the whole MMA spectrum, look at Tapologies, and it's 15 and 24.
Yeah, that's not great. Which, by the way, Tapology's rankings are actually quite good.
Right. And actually, Zan, on that note, WCA and Delia 6 and 14. So just gives more credence to your argument. I think WCA and Delia should be the main event at this point.
Mm-hmm.
So, look, Garcia and Onama are both on good winning streaks. WCA and D'Elia, I feel I have a take about that in regards to the heavyweight division.
Go for
Jeremiah
it.
Wells.
Go for it. I'll let you have at it. Go for
Oh,
it.
you want me to go just because we're talking about the card in general at this point?
Yeah.
Uh,
By
all
the
right.
way,
It's gonna give my prediction away. It's gonna give my prediction away. But in all honesty,
okay.
this is must win for D'Elia. For the sake of the health of the heavyweight division, Ante D'Elia needs to win this fight.
Okay. I think a lot of people would agree. Who are you picking in the main event, though?
Here's why I'm so conflicted, Zan. Can you actually click into Steve Garcia's profile?
Yeah, I sure can.
Okay. Look at Steve Garcia's last 8 fights or so, if we can scroll
Okay.
down.
He's won 6 in a row. Oh, by the way, just for context, 78% of his wins are by KO TKO.
Yeah, that's what I was going to. So he has that decision win over Calvin Kattar that got him into the rankings earlier this year.
Here's his win streak right here.
Yeah,
This is
perfect. This is perfect. The 6th win streak. Chase Hooper, Cheyenne, Costa, Seungwoo Choi, and Kyle Nelson. Those are all, and look at the fact they're all early finishes. 3 of them performance bonuses, and then you have the win over Calvin Kattar, which
right,
is
which the Calvin Kattar fight, if I'm being completely honest, and hopefully I remember my sequence of events, if you will, with this fight. This is a fight he could have finished multiple times, and he just didn't do it.
yeah. And my question at this point is, was that fight, because Steve Garcia is truly on the rise, or is it just that Calvin Kattar is kind of, I hate saying it because I love the guy, but has Calvin Kattar kind of fallen off?
Well, to even add more insult to your point, if you will, Calvin Kattar with that loss is now 7-8 in the UFC. So
Yeah, he is. It's been a complete drop since he's fought Max Holloway a few
and
years ago.
he hasn't won a fight by finish. Speaking of Kattar, he hadn't won a fight by finish going into that fight, and still hasn't in 4 years. So
Now click into Onama, because here's
okay,
Onama's win streak is not as long as Garcia's.
no, Onama's is only 2. I'm pretty sure.
But look at some of those. First of all, 14-2 record is nothing to sneeze at.
He's won 4. He's won 4 in a row.
Glory MMA is nothing to see at. And look at those names. You have Giga Chikaze and Roberto Romero. Ed, get the hell out of here.
There we go. It's gone.
So I mean, I'm looking at that, Zan. Yeah, it's not as
Would
big
you
of a
agree? Would you agree though, in the 3rd round, if you recall, that he should have finished Romero when he didn't?
correct. I agree on that. He has 1 performance bonus, and honestly, Zan, the loss, Nate Landwehr, is not a bad loss, and it was a majority decision. It was a fight of the night.
No, it's not. But would you agree Landwehr back then was a different version of the Landwehr that we see right now, where you don't know
Yes,
what Landwehr you're going to get?
but on that point, Zan, on that same point, you look at their most recent fight where they got both of them had their first true test to get into the rankings. Like we just talked about with the way that Calvin Kattar's career has gone, I think Giga Chikadze is the more impressive win.
Yeah, Andrew Kate has a lot more UFC experience too.
Right. So this is a case of a finisher versus a guy who has the more impressive win to get into the rankings. As far as a pick goes for this fight, we can go back to the match card.
Sure.
As far as a pick goes for this fight, I'm going to lean towards the finishes and the momentum of Steve Garcia. I think Steve Garcia gets this done. I think about mid-late finish. Let's go round 3 or 4.
Yeah, so we're both taking Garcia. I think he's going to finish him in round 2, though. I think it's going to be a faster fight than what people may expect. And I think Onama is going to have early success in the 1st round, but I think Garcia is going to have to survive an early storm and then come back and win.
I could see that. All right, let's talk about the co-main event then.
Sure. You want me to start with WCA's profile or D'Elia's?
Let's go with WCA. Because he's number 6 in the rankings, 14-2. Again, nothing bad. Let's look at his little profile here.
Okay, he's 7-2 in the UFC. Let's take a look at his last couple here. Let's start here with the Delima loss.
Yeah, and that's the thing, Zan. What I just said about the main event can kind of apply and actually more apply with the co-main event as well. Because, Andrei Arlovsky at this point, Nothing really to say. Although it was kind of amazing that Andrei Arlovsky was even still fighting in the UFC in 2024.
Yeah,
Dispan had a lot of momentum and nothing since.
right.
Ryan Spann. The problem with Ryan Spann is I think that was his first fight at heavyweight, was it not?
Yes, that would be correct.
So he was originally a light heavyweight. Now, the Spivak win, I think, is impressive. And I think the fight that he lost, Sergey Pavlovich, that's a former interim title challenger. So technically, that's not a bad loss.
Well, it's not a bad loss, and it's a fight that if he would have picked it up maybe 6 minutes sooner than he did, we could have looked at a split decision instead of him losing by unanimous decision, and then there would have been a lot of questions. So,
Absolutely, I agree. So, I mean, you look at his profile compared to the profile of Ante Delia. I mean,
sure.
again, Ante Delia. Oh, sorry. Ante Delia, former PFL champion, but he obviously just made his UFC debut a couple of months ago. But now, granted, it was a really, really impressive performance when he finished Marcin Tybura.
Yeah, but you would agree that the Jorgen De Castro win was nothing special because De Castro has not lived up to expectations at all.
No, and that was a fight outside of the UFC.
Right, true. Good point. Good
And
point.
the other thing is, on that note, I may be Mr. PFL, but if you look at those names he was fighting in the PFL, Valentin Moldavsky aside, and it's not good that he got finished by him already, but Maurice Green, Matthias Scheffel, well, that was the fight that even won him the championship. Hanan Ferreira, that's not bad considering what happened with Hanan Ferreira afterward, but
Goltsov might be his best win on here, to be quite honest
yes,
with you.
big time. That's a fight. That's a fight that has aged well. A win for him that has aged very well.
Well, I think I didn't know you back then, but knowing you the way I know you now, I don't think I would have. I don't think I would have picked against Goltsov. So at the time, that must have been a pretty big upset.
Yeah, it was a pretty big upset. And then look, he lost in 46 seconds to Bruno Capoloza, who ended up not that year, but later on also becoming a PFL heavyweight champion.
Isn't that pretty crazy that he was supposed to fight Cyril Gahn way back when, and it never happened?
Well, you know what? He's probably going to get a chance in the future if he can win this fight. And again, I'm going to go back to my take, Sam. I think D'Elia needs to win for the sake of the heavyweight division. If
I think
you
a
were
lot. I think a lot of people would agree with you. I think a
Zen,
lot of people would.
did you see that stat that came out? And it sounds kind of logical to say because we haven't talked about them a lot this year. But again, John Jones, Tom Aspinall, Cyril Gahn, and Francis Ngannou are about to end the year with a combined donut. 0 wins amongst them.
Yeah, if you would have told somebody that 2 years ago, they would have laughed at you.
Right. Francis Ngannou hasn't fought in MMA since his one PFL fight. John Jones had the 2-week retirement stint and is now teasing the whole White House idea again, even though Dana doesn't want him on that card. Aspinall versus Gahn, I mean, Dan, we went hundreds of UFC cards in over 30 years' time. We never had a pay-per-view card that ended with a championship fight that ended in a no contest. Immediately, not counting the Jones Cormier fight that got overturned because of the failed drug test. I mean,
What
an
about
immediate.
what about Couture versus Belfort though?
Again, that was after the fact, wasn't it?
Oh yeah, that's right. Yeah.
Not
Okay,
not
yeah.
nothing after the fact. The first time we have an immediate no contest. Like
Oh, I see. Yeah. Now that makes a whole lot more sense. Yeah.
heavyweight is freaking cursed right now.
Oh, I'm aware. I I'm gonna be blunt and say I think right now you could say with whole certainty that it is the worst division in the sport at the moment.
Probably the fact that at one point,
It was the most revered.
it was the most revered, but at one point, oh my god, this is gonna kill me. Who's the guy that fought Curtis Blades last? Rizvan Kudiev. The fact
Yeah.
that Rizvan Kudiev Now, granted, he should have had his hand raised in that fight, but
Oh,
the
I'm aware.
loss ranked him, Zan. The loss ranked him.
Yeah, that's when you know heavyweight's down really bad. That's when you know.
And if you're asking me who I'm going to put more trust in, despite the fact that WCA is ranked, you see all of Ante Delia's finishes. I would put more hope in that Ante Delia ends up winning this fight and ends up, trying to save the heavyweight division than some of these other talents.
Yeah, no kidding. With the few minutes that we have left, are there any other fights that stand out to you? And because we're sitting here live, I'm going to ask you: are you interested in coming back and being a guest picker for this one-off horrible UFC event, or would you rather pass?
Uh, I'll pick for this card. And actually, can we
Okay,
go back to the card for just a second?
sure, no problem, no problem.
Okay, because I know a lot of people are going to be talking about Jeremiah Wells, Temba Garimbo. I know Garimbo isn't exactly in the best of light in the MMA community right now. However, this is going to be Jeremiah Wells' first fight in like a year and a half. And the
Yeah,
concern is going to be his, obviously, ring rust.
yeah, and I would argue, well, Grimbo isn't that far behind. It's not a year and a half, but it's a considerable amount of time off. His last fight was in December of last year.
He
So
lost to Vicente Luque, which on surface not a bad loss, but Vicente Luque is another fighter that he has lost a lot of momentum over the last couple of years.
yeah, but if you look at some of the names before him, though, I mean, do we really think any of these guys are all that impressive? Nico
No.
Nico Price was a shell of his former self. Brahima, you don't know what version of him you'll get. Pete Rodriguez fell to irrelevancy really quickly, despite him still being really young. I'm sure you would attest to that. Attest to that, right? And then
Mm-hmm.
Soto. I mean, I don't know. I mean, you're just as plugged in on the sport as I am. But when's the last time we heard from Soto?
No.
I can't tell you. And and AJ Fletcher unfortunately fell off pretty darn quickly. So
And
um,
actually, if you want to do go back, I will give you one name that I have my eye on
sure,
in this card, and that's going to be the fight right before that. Yadier Delval. He competed at UFC Vegas 1-6, and he took care of business quick against Connor Matthews. He had leg kicks and forward pressure early.
yeah, he looked
He
really good. I remember. Yeah, I remember this fight. Yeah,
brought it right
yeah.
to the ground. Matthews wanted the guillotine, and then Delval just completely dominated on the ground,
That
scrambling
was
to get the
that was
choke.
one of the few fights on that whole card that was actually decent outside of
Absolutely.
outside of the main event in between Burns and Morales.
And when you've got him going up against a 7-1 fighter like Isaac Dolgarian, I feel like a win against him shows that Delval is real, and he's really going to be one to keep an eye out on.
Yeah, I would agree. There is one other fight that I'm interested in personally. I'm excited for Nascimento versus Jordan. I think that has a chance to be really interesting. What do you think?
I think that's an interesting one too. I'm curious to see how Durden is because he's kind of, I think, lost momentum himself, unless I'm misremembering.
Well,
Nascimento is coming off the win over Jael Filo, as it mentions there.
yeah, and he's been super inactive, as you can see, multiple canceled fights,
Yeah.
and
And
he
actually,
missed.
who was the one that missed weight? Was that Filo or is that Nascimento himself?
I'm checking. Let's take a look at Filo's profile to see if he was the original guy who missed weight. I don't remember.
No, he doesn't. So
No,
Nascimento is coming off a weight miss too.
yeah, that's even worse. And with weigh-ins being tomorrow morning, you never know. You never know what might happen, especially with some of these betting odds. You know that.
Yeah,
So
this card sucks.
yeah,
Sorry, fight fans.
and
I'm
and
hoping, Zan, who knows? Maybe I'll hit another Novig 7-leg parlay.
yeah, and speaking of Novik, let's do a really quick read on that. Shout out to our friends over at Novik for this. So the MMA Outsiders is powered by Novik, America's #1 sports prediction market, available right now in 35 states, including California, Texas, Florida, Georgia, and New York, and I might add as well, Illinois. I know that you're 10 times more likely to win long term compared to a traditional sports book because you're playing against real users and not just the house. Sign up today and use the promo code ETB Network. That is ETB NETWRK for exclusive bonuses. Yeah, Tom. So congratulations on your 7-leg parlay. With the few more minutes that we have, are there any other fights prop wise that you're interested in putting your eye on to see if you can go 2 for 2? Because that 7-leg parlay was very impressive.
Well, actually, Zan, there is one news story that I do want to talk about very briefly
Oh,
before we leave.
go for it. Yeah.
Did you see the comments from Josh Thompson that hinting that it looks like as a result of the eye poke, the UFC is going to try to implement some new things? And here's my problem with that. I am all for it. I am hoping what Josh Thompson says is true. But number one, you have to hope that the referees and the athletic commissions actually do stuff in terms of enforcing it, which that's funny because it feels like we go every week where I'm yelling on Twitter about a referee effing something up.
Yeah, you sure do.
And number two, remember when
you know that's when you know the night is going really slow when
I start crapping on referees, yeah.
Absolutely.
And number two, didn't they UFC already try that with the new gloves?
Yeah. And it didn't work.
It didn't work. Oh, jeez, I hit my ankle trying to move myself back. Ow.
Are you okay?
Yes, I'm okay.
Too funny.
This, please, I want it to be true. We definitely need to cut down on the eye pokes in MMA, and we need to cut down on the fouls. But it's got to be enforced, like you said.
Yeah, it's got to be enforced. And then, speaking of eye pokes, what do you think of Mr. Troll riding a horse with an eye patch? Did you see that? Did you see the troll job of the century?
Yeah, I'm not surprised. It's John Jones, and obviously Tom Aspinall did the whole duck thing at UFC London earlier this year in March. Zan, actually, I should say on here, before we go, I should say on here what I told you, because it seems like you and people on Twitter are actually on my side.
Okay.
You want the solution to the heavyweight division? You want the solution to the whole John Jones madness?
Go for it.
There's a certain somebody who has been begging Dana White to move up to heavyweight.
And that name is Poetan.
That name is Tama. I think, here's what I say. F it. You do John Jones versus Alex Pereira, and if Pereira breaks the streak at the White House card, you give him the Aspinall Gone winner.
I think a lot of people would be very interested.
I think that's what you got to do at this point, because even the title eliminator, I know Volkov and Almeida had a title limiter, but one, the no contest means he ain't getting his title shot anytime soon. And number two, Zan, the fight sucked.
Right.
Volkov
exactly.
Neither guy impressed me enough to warrant me saying, yeah, they deserve a title shot.
But at the very least, though, I mean, to give a little bit of credit to Volkov, at the very least, he didn't get screwed like he did against Gane last winter, though.
Right.
So, I don't know.
Although what's funny is kind of like what you were saying and kind of like what other people on, in the MMA community are saying, Gane was winning that first round against Aspinall.
Oh,
There's a chance if it's not for that eye poke, Cyril Gane is the heavyweight champion and completely screws up all the different plans that the UFC has.
Well, I'm going to ask you this follow-up too. Do you think an immediate rematch would have still been on the table had Gane actually finished him? There's a major debate about that. I'm sure as you know. So
I want to say yes, because I feel bad that Tom Aspinall has been effed over for the last year and a half, but also it would be Tom Aspinall losing in his first title defense. And Alexander Volkov, like you said, to give credit, won a title eliminator.
Mm-hmm. I'm just going to be blunt and say I think a lot of this would be like less heightened than it is had his dad not said that they were interested in boxing after his contract was up.
Oh, the UFC at this point, the heavyweight division on that note is kind of screwed because this is
Oh
going the
yeah.
way this is going the way of Francis Ngannou.
Oh yeah. And this might even be maybe not worse, but maybe virtually identical to pull a term. It might literally go that way. That's the
So
that's the crazy part.
so the fact that so the fact you got John Jones yapping over here, you got Aspinall going to a no contest in his first title defense. You don't want Jones versus Gunn 2 again because Jones will just obliterate Gunn. I think Dana's losing leverage. He's got to consider, and especially because light heavyweight has actually improved now in terms of talent, you might have to consider moving Pereira up to heavyweight.
Yeah, and you might just have to screw his whole adage about him being too small for him and stuff like that. I don't know.
Screw it. I mean, look, if Alex Pereira wins the UFC heavyweight title, then there's a good consideration for him to be amongst Demetrius Johnson, GSP, and Khabib
Oh,
as the MMA GOAT.
100%. And
Nobody has ever won UFC titles in 3 weight classes.
right, because he also won at middleweight. Yes,
Yeah.
that's a very good point. And I actually think the division would be healthier if he became the champion. And because at the very least for 2 years, you would get an active Alex Pereira as he goes into being 41 and 42. So
Mm-hmm.
I don't. Oh, I think all this is very interesting. I think it's very fascinating, but I'm sure behind the scenes that they're biting their nails because they know that this Paramount partnership needs to start out strong. And if they have all of these issues with some of their major weight divisions, it's not going to be a very good sign, as I'm sure you might suspect. So
Yeah, no. That's why they're saving Ilya Tapuria for that first card.
yeah, I'm very interested to see if the Ilya Paddy Pimblett fight actually gets made, or if Justin Gaethje actually gets the fight. I don't know. It's
Neither do
very
I. It'll be fun to
it's
see.
it's very interesting. I just hope what Pimblett is saying is true, that he signed his side and they're just waiting on Taporia now. Something tells me he's probably asking for some crazy demands that they're just not willing to reach at the moment. At least they still have time to figure it out, but it obviously isn't a good sign when it's October and they're running ads for the new deal and there's no fight to promote to begin the year yet. So yeah, it's kind of all interesting though, but that's going to do it for another edition of the MMA Outsiders. It was good to do this small little reunion. For those of you who are loyal listeners and viewers, of course, Jack Gold will be back next week. We'll recap UFC Vegas 110. We'll preview UFC Vegas 111, which actually might end up being a better card than this weekend, but we shall see. Tom, do you have any parting words before we finish on playback for the evening?
Be Joe Pyfer?
Yeah, it's a good one. That used to be our old saying after every single episode that we did. Hopefully, Joe Piper gets back to still being as big of a superstar as he was back then, but that remains to be seen.
I
But
mean, he's ranked now.
yeah, it's true. He just needs to stay on the trajectory so he doesn't lose hype like Bo Nickel did, though. So
Well, that was stupid what the UFC did, putting him up against RDR, thinking that RDR was just going to roll over.
I know, and I was there, and I saw firsthand how good RDR actually was.
Until he quit.
Yeah, I'm very much worried. You want to talk about the quitting narrative? RDR quit. Tom Aspinall didn't. Oh, I'll just say that right now. There are some very psychotic people in our space. It's unfortunately no names mentioned, but the whole Tom Aspinall quit narrative is unbelievable. In my opinion.
I know there are fighters that would want to go on, but still, it
When
just
he literally is saying he can't see, you gotta
those
believe.
are. But I was gonna say those are the deadliest words during an eye poke timeout because a referee and a doctor. Well, let me check that. A responsible referee and doctor. The minute they hear those words, that's it. We're done.
Yeah, absolutely. So with that, we're out of time. That was the newest edition of the MMA Outsiders. I will be back next week. We'll see you guys on playback later this weekend for much more content, including another edition of NFL Red Zone. So until then, we will see you guys soon. Have a good one.